Hey, friends, and welcome back to our Family Album Project, the podcast where we slow down, make space, and actually use our photos in meaningful ways. Today, I have such a treat for you. I'm chatting with someone who not only helps people tackle digital overwhelm, but also creates beautiful, intentional family photo albums. She's a fellow minimalist and someone whose work really aligns with our mission here. She was a teacher who previously developed curriculum and taught theater courses at a collegiate level. She is also a freelance writer and has an amazing TEDx talk about minimalism. Please welcome Laura to the podcast. All right, before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in your own words?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Anna. My name's Maura Malloy, and I have a website called Less is Maura. It was kind of built out of that TEDx talk I did when I was about 35 weeks pregnant with my daughter. I had been blogging about my path to minimalism, and weirdly enough, Indianapolis decided that same year that their theme for TEDx that year would be keep it simple. And it turned out that like someone other than my mother read my blog and they invited me to be a speaker. And I know, I was like, what? You just like throw things out into the ether and then you never know, right? Yeah. And then, the blog kind of pause. I was early in motherhood and I didn't know exactly how to keep that up and juggle everything. And then I became really overwhelmed with photos. I'm a really organized person. I consider myself to be super organized. And I always imagined that would just like flow into like the memory making now that I had a family that I had always dreamed of. And my husband had an Android and I had an iPhone, and we had like the nice fancy camera, and then like we had photos on an external hard drive, and then I realized that I hadn't backed my iPhone up in a couple years. It was just like such a mess, and I had like a lot of shame around that because I like it tidy. And I was like, I had this website. This feels like it falls under the umbrella of minimalism, and I can imagine how I would create a course. Like I'm a big fan of online courses because created courses for theater classes and stuff in the past. So I decided to like rebrand. I think originally my website was called A Serene Space. And one day I was like, why did I never call it Less is More? My name is Maura. And I rebranded and I built that class during the pandemic. And from there uh, I've created I have album making services. So I've created services, and now I have an online class that teaches you how to organize your photos if you want to do it on your own. And then if you want some help, you can like hire me to create an album. And then I also have a service where I can help you turn your crumbly kid art into curated albums. So turns out I thought I would like throw away all my daughter's art and be like, oh, how cute, and then like recycle it. And then I was like, she's amazing. And like this, and I mean, I think, young childhood creativity is fascinating. And I couldn't just like throw it away without memorializing it. So I found a stylish way to do it that would look beautiful on a bookshelf. And so now I create kid art albums that I call the Emerging Artist album.
A little bit about you. Yeah, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful intro. I feel like you are speaking to all of us when you're like, photos in all these different places was just a mountain of overwhelm. And
Yes.
finally I've gotten it together where I can make a yearly album, but I'll be honest, I have the same problem currently where I have, photos every which way that I will eventually organize. So I'm so glad that we have people like you that have this gift that you can help, you know, with that digital overwhelm. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure. I mean, I just feel like I definitely like to create things that served me. And then I'm like, oh, I found a solution. Let me share it. And now I'm finding the solution for myself, I can review it and be like, oh, if I had done it this way, it would have been so much more efficient. So let me teach it to you so that you don't make all this mistakes and waste all this time or money or whatever. Like I can just like streamline it for you. Like I will be the guinea pig and streamline it. And then, I can pass it off to you guys and hopefully
take that knowledge and expertise. So I feel like the digital decluttering goes hand in hand with the digital overwhelm, especially for moms and especially with photos. Are you seeing that a lot with your clients? Like they're coming in with 30,000 photos going, help, what do I do with this?
Yeah. I think anyone who, I don't know if you have this experience, but anyone who knows about my TEDx talk or knows that like I'm a minimalist, that there's always this like, or you would, I want you to see my closet and help me, but I don't ever want you to see my closet and help me. And I just want to tell these people like, I know. And I want to be like, I do this for my own mental health. Like I'm not judging anyone else. I have anxiety and this like calms me down. Yeah. And I feel like it's the same thing with like the digital clutter. It's like a closet, it's invisible. um, but then, I do think that with photos, it's different than chores or clothes because they're,
There's emotional weight.
There's a lot of emotional weight. Yeah. It's like a mental load that is amplified by the memories that they carry. And so, I mean, I personally feel that. And like I don't want to forget all these little quirks that made up my daughter's first couple years, but there's a lot of them, So, and we capture those, pictures do, tell the story of our lives. So I do think.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm losing a lot of the context. Like I keep thinking I have all these photos on my phone of my kids small, but sometimes when I look back, I don't really remember as much anymore because it's getting further away. And so now I think that's been the push of like, oh, I need to start getting these in books and like writing things down. Because even though it's a photo, it's still, I'm still losing the context of why I took it or what was going on.
Yeah, so in my class, it's broken down into 4 sections, and the first half of the class is, we're migrating and we're gathering everything everywhere, including your spouses if you have one. And we're going to all the sources, including Facebook. Like sometimes I remember I even found amazing photos of my husband's cousin's wedding, but I wasn't tagged in it, but he was, like I just have you go everywhere. And I'm pretty thorough, and I ask you to just like go along with me for the ride and be thorough too, because once you do this, you'll never have to do it again. And then I teach you what to do once a month so that you never get backlogged again. And it takes about 30 minutes a month to stay on top of it. And then because you have now organized the backlog and because you've organized the whole past years, I like to say that every January when we're exhausted from the holidays and we just want to curl up on the couch and watch movies, photos are organized and we're ready to make the album from the year prior.
Yes.
And by doing that, you do kind of remember the phrases or why you took so many of that kind of photo that particular year. You can add those phrases or whatever to the album.
I like that you're teaching a skill where you're helping people organize their photos, but then you're teaching them something that they'll carry on the rest of their lives.
Well, I hope so, because I hope like we put so much work into it.
Yeah.
That I hope like we can create a repeatable system. I think that's something that I'm always looking for. Like if I feel overwhelmed by something, once I've tackled it, like I don't want to have to tackle it again. And it was overwhelming to go through all those photos at first. And And then it was like, I never want to do that again.
No.
And, I mean, every once in a while, I don't do it for a couple months,
For sure. Oh,
So
yeah.
then I have like a couple months to catch up on, but it's nothing.
Doable, manageable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of find a parallel in what we're talking about with what you talked about in your TEDx talk. Where I love your TEDx talk. I've listened to it like 5 times, and I kind of pick out new things every time I listen to it. But the beginning where you talk about the grocery store in the 1950s and how there was only 3,000 items to choose from versus the 1990s where there's 30,000 things to choose from. It was one of those things where I had to pause and take it in. But that's how the photos feel. Where in the past,
Yes.
you didn't have, you know, 20,000 photos on or 20,000. Yeah, I mean, maybe 3,000 on your phone, yeah, to manage. And then yeah, and it just creates a compounding mountain where you're not going to really stop taking photos on your phone, but you're just going to gather more and more. And so, what does digital decluttering actually look like in practice? So, like for your clients, you say you start with the class. There's 4 classes. They can go at their own pace. Is it teaching them to find everything and then put it into specific places?
Yes. So, I mean, I I am a fan of Microsoft OneDrive.
Okay.
Which is a cloud-based service that you pay for once a year, and it has 1 TB of space. Now, some people love to store everything in Google or, Amazon Pictures or whatever, or Apple, And I had stuff in Apple. My husband had stuff in Google, um, and I migrated all of it to OneDrive. And then I have the OneDrive app on my phone, and we have it on my husband's phone, and it's logged into my account. So it automatically uploads both of our photos to my OneDrive account. Now I like this, and some people are overwhelmed by that. Like, I don't want to migrate everything from Apple, but I then don't have to pay for Apple storage. And this is what I love the most, because OneDrive is in sync with my camera roll. That's what it's called, right? On Apple or Photos.
Yeah.
I only have like 200 photos on my phone.
Wow.
Because so I don't have to get more space with each new phone I buy. Actually, I can get less space because it's all backed up on OneDrive, and I can access OneDrive on my phone, on my computer.
That's amazing. So you're saving your mental health and you're saving money by not having to keep getting more and more storage. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you go back and delete anything? Okay. Is that part of the class?
On my camera roll, and then sometimes I'll delete like dupes and stuff. I clean up OneDrive. The other great thing about OneDrive is it automatically organizes it by month. So you have your folders for 2025, and then there's going to be 12 folders within 2025 for each month of the year. So so once you do the backlogged organizing of bringing the photos from all over the place that you've had them, then it becomes much more in sync, and OneDrive is doing a lot of the work for you now. And I think there are people that prefer Google, and I'm not out to be like, this one's the best, but this one is the best for me, and it's what I teach in my class. Yeah, so that's how I organize the photos. And then, when we get the family photos in the fall, I'll just drag that folder into the October folder. And, these, like this past weekend, we just had a big surprise 50th anniversary party for my parents, and I hired a photographer. And those photos will just go into July 2025 folder, but then they'll be there when I'm ready to make the album.
That's so nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can feel that peace of mind as you explain it. I'm like, just knowing they're right there.
Yeah, it becomes like such a light lift. At first, it's a huge project. And I talk about it in the class too. I think a lot about how we all learn differently and how we're all motivated. Like, I know we have the mental load of being these memory makers and memory keepers, and passing on the stories of our family to our children. And I know we all feel that weight, but then what motivates each of us to actually do something to like get rid of that weight on our shoulders? So in my class, I try to offer different suggestions like, are you motivated by an accountability partner? Would it help you to just set a timer for 15 minutes every day when you're doing the initial backlog and it feels like it's enough, like what if you just did 15 minutes and then you set it down and then you did 15 more minutes the next day? Or what if you're someone like me where once the task initiation has begun, you can't stop. And you're just like, we're going to order takeout for 2 weeks. I'm like, I must complete this. Like, this is all I can think about till it's done. Like, I'm that kind of person. And most people aren't like me, and that's probably a good thing. But I try to think about like what would motivate you or what would make it feel manageable so that you actually complete it and you actually like dump that mental load and it's no longer on your shoulders, and it becomes like brushing your teeth. Oh, I have to just like go through the folders from last month and delete the ones that am blinking in. I'm going to delete all the ones I don't look great at and all the duplicates that we don't need and all those screenshots, and then I'm done till next month.
I love it. I love that you're meeting people where they're at and you're like taking into account their lives and making the course work for them, where it's not working against them. They're not struggling because you're, you know, helping fit what they need fitted. I don't know how to say that better, but you're meeting them where they're at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's all pre-recorded, so it is, work at your own pace at your own time
I love that.
on your own timeline. But I
You can possibly know it's an obstacle for your kid or
right, and I try and have the class like each section really short. Like we're probably mostly moms that are going to take this course. And that's just a general statement, but we don't have a lot of time in our hands. Like you cannot watch a 20-minute lesson, like
no.
get to it, get the handout and go do the work.
Yes. That's why my other podcast, not my interview podcast, I try to keep them under 15 minutes because I'm like, no, nobody's got time anymore,
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah. You can wash your dishes, listen to it, and be done.
Right.
I love that your course is fit for people who don't have time.
Right.
Switching gears to the family photo album. So you make family photo albums, which we obviously love here. What is your favorite thing to include in your albums or something you always try to capture? I know you talked about that 50th anniversary party. Is that something that, I know you really did capture because you hired a professional photographer?
Right.
Is most of your books are family?
Yes. So I will do like I've done wedding albums for people that are just, they have the pictures, they've just been on their hard drive. That's the other thing. We take all this time to take these pictures and then what are we doing with them?
They're just fitting.
That's something.
Nobody's doing anything
here. Yeah, we're driving. I know. And, we're saying to smile and say cheese, and everyone's getting annoyed with us. And then what are we doing? We're doing nothing with them. So, yeah. So I do a lot of wedding albums. I've done dog albums, like for dogs that have passed away. Like people want their. Oh gosh, I don't even want to think about it. And yes. I've done retirement albums and then I've done like special birthdays, significant birthdays and anniversaries. And you know what I find, Anna, is that every time I am given a collection of photos, that what I like to do special every time is like find the specialness of that collection. So sometimes people will include letters sometimes I'll find, patterns in the photos. Like, man, you took a lot. There might be like a ton taken. I feel like I'm not making sense right now, but there's usually like themes that come out.
Yes,
Just patterns. Sure,
you find patterns.
yes, patterns and themes. And I talk about this in my class too. I think there's themes like for my family. My husband grows an amazing vegetable garden, and I harvest and eat all of the vegetables. And it's a big part of our album every year. And my daughter plants them with my husband, and they water the garden, and then like we make these yummy meals. So that's in our album every year. And then there's
Love
these
that.
patterns that kind of emerge every year, and they're different. They're the patterns that like no one is planning for. So like there was one year when she was like 1.5 and bald headed and teeny. And I have all these pictures of her walking ahead of me because she was just this like, there's no reason that someone that little and cute should be like just walking around the earth. But I'm not taking pictures from behind anymore of her like walking in front of me. That was a pattern that kind of just emerged as I was reviewing the pictures that year. And I think that's what I find when I get some people's collections of photos. These patterns emerge that are very unique to that collection. And those I like to highlight. Yeah.
Oh.
I like to be surprised by what I'm given.
So, talking about making wedding albums, I am trying to finish mine. I've been married 10 years. And
Amazing.
when I first started making the album, I noticed I had a lot of those like beautiful shots of me and my husband like frolicking on the beach. And so I tried to put those in the book. People that were at the wedding.
Oh.
I'd rather have like those photos be the bigger, hero type pictures and not the ones. Because, I mean, after so many frolicking beach photos, you kind of get a little annoyed. Not annoyed, but you're just like, I've seen it. I don't need to see that anymore. But, like my mom at my wedding, my aunt laughing. So when you're making wedding albums, do you see that a lot with people? Like do they send more photos of just the bride and groom or of the whole family, or is it just such a hodgepodge?
It depends. Some people will just send a certain amount, and some people will send everything that my father forbade them.
Yes.
Yeah. But then and then I tend to, you know, try and include the people, and then I like the frolicking ones, but I agree we need. I mean, less is more.
Yes. Yeah.
More. And but I think sometimes still that is the gift you get with time. I mean, you now know that like you cherish the memories with those people. Isn't that interesting? And like you're making kind of a different album than you might have made like 6 months out from your wedding.
Yeah, I would see the photo albums advertised to brides and grooms, and I see the frolicking photos, and then I'm thinking, here 10 years after getting married, I'm like, that's not even the ones you're gonna really want. I mean, you do want a couple, but you really want like your family on the dance floor or your own being silly.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's room for both of them, but I'm but I think like I like the flow of it too. Like we don't need to see tons. I would pick like the best of the frolicking, and I would make that a whole page spread, and maybe like again before you go to the reception, But yeah.
Do you have a wedding album? Did you ever make one?
Oh yeah.
Is it so the minimalist one, or what was
well,
it?
Our photographer made us like this epic one that's like a tomb. It's like the size of. I mean, I could use it for weightlifting, and it's amazing. It's amazing. But then when I finally made my stack of I call them the Annual Heirloom Albums. That's the name of my class. When I finally made my Annual Heirloom Albums, I wanted my wedding album to like fit in the stack. So I kind of recreated their album but I use Mixbook as my album making service.
Me too.
Me too. They're great to work with, and I feel like they're they're not like the most expensive, but I guess
They're like
they make
perfect mid-range.
great quality. Yeah, yeah, and they're great.
They're gorgeous.
Customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So then I did make another album that fit into that stack. It's a wedding album.
Is that what you did with your grandparent album too?
Yeah. So
Tell me about your
my grandma. Yes. So this is like the free mini class that I offer. So people, if they're curious, can get a sense of how I teach and what I would teach. But this is an album I made for my grandma where you gather photos from your entire extended family. So you become like a project manager for your extended family, which sounds probably to most people like the worst job in the world. And I teach you how to do it without it becoming a job or feeling like a full time job by simply using like Google folders and share drives and simple Google Sheets that like all the cousins can add, their spouses and their children's names. So you don't have to be fielding millions of emails and calls, but people can dump their own photos into a shared Google folder. They can fill in their information and then you can create the album. And what I found when I did this, well, first of all, I did it inefficiently and I was fielding a million emails. And I was like, how can I simplify this? And then once I figured that out, I created this mini course. But I also created this album that has like every wedding photo of all the grandchildren. It has pictures of my grandma with all her great grandbabies. It has pictures of her with when we were babies. It's just a beautiful album of our entire extended family. And once I made it, a lot of other family members ordered copies too. So now this album just like lives in a lot of my cousins' houses too. And then they can share it with their children. So like these pictures can be passed down in that way. And I think it's a great I think, usually I am a minimalist. Like one album a year is plenty, but then there are these significant birthdays or special events where it's like, and this would be
that
for
would
the
be
gift
super special. Oh yeah, and then just having everyone's wedding photos together, all the grandkids together, all the cousins. I mean, that is a beautiful book. I feel like with our lives too, we're so spread out, and so it is a way for the whole family to feel connected.
Exactly. My cousins are all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, that is a really cool idea.
Yeah. And yeah, it was worth it.
For sure. Oh yeah. That is a project when you're done with it and you're holding the book, you're like, I wish I could do this 1,000 times because it was worth it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You will not regret it.
So when you make your books, are they more clean and minimalist, or do you have a lot of like words and context? Do you use embellishments?
Mine are pretty clean and minimalist. I do add words when I feel like it will enhance the story. So I try, I try to have the pictures tell a story, but then, we like last year, I don't know why I just thought of this, but we had a total eclipse in Indianapolis. And so there was a whole photo spread of that. So, I mean, having the date and like we saw in the pictures of it, like that's not going to happen again, probably. So that was a time when I felt like words really were essential and elevated the story. But then, if you're holding a pumpkin, I don't need to say like, "Hey, it's October." It's October. Like we know it's October. Like you see my daughter dressed up, and there's like a pumpkin on a porch. Like we know it's Halloween. Yeah. So some things but I think the things that stick out that aren't the normal, I use words more for our annual trips. I know you're a big traveler too. So like last year we did a huge road trip, mostly like Burlington, Vermont, Quebec City, and Montreal. And so, unless there was like when we were in Montreal, there was a place on the pier where it said Montreal, and that was in the picture. So I don't need to like spell out Montreal, but there was no place like that in Quebec City. So when we turned the page and we're in Quebec City, I added those words. Do you know what I mean? So I really am pretty minimalist about it.
Yeah.
I like the pictures to tell the story, but I'll help out when I can.
Yes. I like that. That's what I try to do that too, just because it's a lot of work to sit and write captions for most of the photos.
Yeah.
Just to,
Yeah.
I do a letter for my year in review books. At the beginning
I
and
love that.
end, I have a little letter that has kind of like what you're gonna see and just where we're at in life, like what I'm doing for work, what the kids are doing, and then at the end I do a little summary letter too, and that helps.
Oh, I love that. That's so thoughtful. I love that. We did a letter for my grandma oh, that's such a great idea. I do it.
What is your grandma?
We wrote a letter at the beginning. Just it was like her 93rd birthday. I think I just wrote a letter about how much she missed her, and yeah.
That's so special.
And I've done that, and I've done that for clients. Clients have, for significant birthdays, they've gotten a lot of letters from friends and family. So we incorporate those like a lot next to a picture, that person with the birthday person. So I think there's definitely a place um, where words are really meaningful to a book. It just depends. But I think for the annual album, I try to make it mostly picture heavy.
Yeah.
When I do the kid art, I tell clients like if there's something significant to write it on a post-it on the back of the art. And sometimes it's the kid's description of what they're drawing. And it has to be captioned.
Yes.
It must be captioned. It's like essential. Or it'll be like inspired by, Monet. It's just like, oh, and then you can see it. You're like, it is inspired by Monet. You kind of, it's totally Monet. You're a mini Monet.
Yeah.
Or this is the sunset of my heart. Stuff like that. And like, and then you look at the picture and you're like, I see it.
My daughter,
I think,
is a little artist too. She tells me what her art is, and that context is so helpful. I'll be like, oh, I do see exactly what you just said.
I know, isn't that so cool? I'm obsessed with kid art. I think I think early childhood creativity is just amazing. So, I mean, I love making those albums.
You have actually inspired me to make an art album for my daughter, because I have a huge stack of her art that's just been every day she's coloring at the table. She'll just go and just start.
Yeah.
And so we have this giant stack. And my husband's been really good about telling her, like, you need to sign it, and then we'll date it on the back. But it's just growing. And I'm like, what am I going to do with all of this? But putting it in a go is a great idea. It's a beautiful way to remember. And I know she'll love looking at it when she's older.
Yeah, it's really fun. And it's really fun because then you watch like her creativity like grow and develop. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, so we are both minimalists and we're both moms. How does it show up in your daily life when you're trying to manage all the photos? Do you take photos on your phone when you're like out at an event and you just cap it, where you're like, I'm only taking 5 photos at this event and we're done? Or do you have a different way of managing?
I don't cap it, but I definitely have no problem deleting ones that aren't like great once I'm reviewing them like later that day or at the end of the month when I'm organizing them from the month before. I find that and and also sometimes, I'm not like stringent about it, and sometimes the most random photo becomes like our favorite one to see every year. The other great thing about OneDrive, the cloud service I use to store all of our photos, is that it shows us like what we took photos of on this day every year prior. So I know it's so fun to review that. So some of the most random ones have become our favorite. So you don't want to like edit too much. But yeah, I mean, and also my daughter's getting to an age where she's like, Mom, and she just won't let us take too many. Yes. But also my husband's a great photographer too. So sometimes I don't know, sometimes he leads the way and finds the best angle and stuff.
That's good. You're a good team.
Yeah.
Our whole family is on board with the family yearbooks and like actively participates to make them better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's like one of his hobbies and stuff. So like when he sees a good like frame and stuff, he gets into it. And I think he's like, this is let's put a picture of this daughter. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're gonna wrap it up, and I'm just gonna do a little mini recap. So we did talk about a lot. We talked about pulling all of the photos out of that digital overwhelm into a OneDrive and having you as the captain in that 4-course self-paced class that you teach on your website, Less is Maura. And it really helps with the decision fatigue. I love talking about the grandparent album. I think that is so special. And then also just being a mom and trying to manage all the memory making. So thank you so much for all of your beautiful ideas and your time and your expertise. I really appreciated you coming on the show. I think you're going to inspire so many people. And it was a very helpful and calming conversation, serene conversation. I think a lot of people will finally tackle their digital chaos when they know they are not alone. And there are ways, yes, to carve out that space for yourself to make albums and manage the chaos. But before we go, where can people find you if they want to work with you, take your class, or just follow along your journey?
Sure. You can check out my website. It's www.lessismaura.com. And I'm on Instagram, less_is_Maura. And yeah, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I typically send it once a month because less is more. And sometimes it's less than that, guys. I really don't want to clutter email inbox either. That's part of the digital clutter as well.
If this episode helped you breathe a little deeper or gave you the edge to declutter, let us know. Tag us on Instagram or reply to the question box I'll post today. I'll be posting a link to take you to Maura's website and social media so you can go follow along her journey. I'd love to hear your takeaways or what photo project you're tackling next. Thank you for being here with us today. Bye, y'all. I'll see you next time.